The night everything shattered still haunts me. It feels as fresh as if it happened yesterday. Sarah, my wife of 7 years, telling me she had to work late again. The same excuse, repeated so often I almost stopped questioning it. But deep down, something in my gut was telling me otherwise. The long hours at the office, the excuses about deadlines and urgent meetings, they all seemed so normal, too normal. Until that night. I remember it clearly, the sharp scent of cologne on her shirt. It wasn't mine. My mind raced, and a feeling of unease washed over me. She stood in the doorway, tired but smiling, answering my questions with that same calm demeanor. But something felt off. I had known her for so long, I could sense the change in her, even if I couldn't quite place it. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was overthinking it, but I couldn't ignore the nagging feeling growing inside me. That night, I barely slept. The next evening, she left for another business dinner. I tried to relax, watching a movie, but the anxiety gnawed at me. Then, my phone buzzed with a message from Rob. "Mark, are you okay? You haven't been yourself lately." I hesitated, then typed back, "I don't know. Something's wrong with Sarah. She's been working late a lot, partying with friends, coming home distracted. Have you noticed anything?" Rob's response was cautious but direct. "If you think there's something wrong, man, you should figure it out." His words rang in my ears. I couldn't shake them. The next day, Sarah left her phone on the kitchen counter while she went to shower. My hands were trembling as I picked it up. I knew it was wrong, an invasion of privacy, but the doubts had become unbearable. And then, a notification caught my eye. From someone named M. "Last night was amazing. Seeing you again made me feel like I couldn't breathe." I froze. My stomach dropped as the room spun. I put the phone down, trying to steady myself before she came back. When she returned, I greeted her with a smile I didn't feel, trying to keep my composure. She kissed my cheek, but I couldn't shake the sense that everything had changed between us. Later that evening, I made a decision. I couldn't keep pretending that nothing was wrong. I packed the kids off to their mothers for the weekend and told them I had work to do. I was going to find out the truth. I parked outside her office building, watching her walk in, her heels clicking on the pavement. She looked beautiful, but there was something different, an unease in her every step. Hours passed. Just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, I saw Mike, our colleague, enter the building. My heart sank. It felt like I had walked into a trap, but I had to know. I stayed hidden, waiting until the office lights started to dim. Then I slipped inside. I crept down the hallway, my heart pounding in my chest, and finally reached the meeting room. Through the glass door, I saw Sarah and Mike, leaning together over a desk, laughing. The chemistry between them was palpable. My stomach churned as I watched them move closer, and then, everything came crashing down. They kissed passionately. I felt like my world was falling apart in front of me. I couldn't stay silent. I burst into the room shouting, "Sarah! What the hell is going on?" Her face drained of color. She stammered, "Mark, I cut her off, my voice shaking with fury and disbelief. "What is this? How could you do this to me? To our family?" Mike stepped back, his hands raised in defense. "Mark, this isn't the place for this," he said, but I wasn't having it. "No. This is between me and my wife," I shouted. Sarah's eyes were full of tears, her voice breaking as she tried to explain. "Please, let's talk about this," she begged. "Talk about it?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You've been cheating on me, sneaking around like a thief in the night. Do you think you can fix this with words?" She started to cry, pleading, "I was lonely, Mark. Mike was there for me when you weren't. I never meant for it to happen." Her words felt like daggers. "And what about Emma and Jack?" I said, my voice rising with frustration. "Do you think this is what they deserve?" "I'm sorry. I'll do anything to fix this," she pleaded, but her words were hollow to me now. I couldn't stand hearing it anymore. I turned and stormed out, feeling like every step was ripping a piece of me away. I got in my car, my hands shaking as I gripped the wheel. The world around me blurred through the tears. I sped home, barely in control, desperate to escape this nightmare. When I arrived, the house felt empty. Thank God the kids weren't home. The silence was deafening. I walked through the living room, the memories of laughter echoing, but it was all a cruel reminder of the lie my life had become. I went to our bedroom and started packing. Every shirt I picked up felt like it was tearing my heart in two. I looked at the wedding certificate on the wall, the symbol of everything I thought I had, everything that was now gone. With a sharp, bitter tear, I ripped it in half. A sense of finality washed over me, and I realized that this was no longer my life. I was no longer the person I was before. I packed my things and left, heading to a motel in the next town. The dread settled in my chest as I booked the room. I wasn't sure where I was going anymore, but I couldn't stay there. When Sarah came home, she found nothing but an empty house and the remnants of the life we had shared. The wedding certificate was torn, scattered across the floor like the shattered pieces of my heart. She called for me, but there was no answer. The silence of my departure spoke louder than anything I could ever say. The house was silent when Sarah's frantic search began. Her footsteps echoed through the empty rooms as she called out, her voice growing more desperate with every passing second. "Mark! Where are you?" she shouted, her tone quivering with panic. It was as if the walls themselves could sense the tension in the air. She yanked her phone from her pocket, dialing my number with trembling hands. The call went straight to voicemail. "Mark, I'm so sorry. Please call me back. I love you. I can make this right. Just give me a chance. Please come back to me," she pleaded, her voice cracking under the weight of her desperation. The emotion in her words was raw, but my resolve was firm. I was done. A few hours later, I found myself sitting at a bar near my motel, nursing a drink with Rob. He listened patiently as I confided in him about my suspicions, the painful truth about Sarah's betrayal. I had discovered that she had cheated on me. The heartbreak was a weight in my chest, a constant reminder of the betrayal. Rob was supportive, offering practical advice and emotional comfort as we talked for hours about what to do next. Eventually, he mentioned a lawyer he knew, a reputable one who could help me through the divorce. But no matter what advice I received, nothing could erase the pain I was feeling. That night, I went back to my room, alone and still reeling. The following morning, I took a long walk through the park, trying to clear my head. My hand shook as I walked, my mind heavy with the realization of what I was about to face. I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. My heart felt like it was breaking with each step I took. My marriage, my family, my future, all of it was in jeopardy, and I knew I couldn't ignore the truth any longer. Days passed in a blur. I was unable to focus on anything except the enormity of what was happening. When I finally found the courage to call Sarah, I could hear the sorrow in her voice the moment she answered. "Mark, please talk to me. I'll do anything to make this right. I love you. I know I've made mistakes, but please don't leave me." Her voice trembled with grief, but I felt nothing. The pain of betrayal had burned away any love I once felt for her. "I can't do this, Sarah," I said, my voice firm despite the sadness that lingered. "You broke my trust. I can't just forget that. I'll go to counseling," she pleaded. "I'll change. Please don't leave me." I shook my head, unable to find the words to console her. "It's not about that. I have to think about our children. I don't want them to be caught in the middle of this." My voice softened but remained resolute. "I need to think about what's best for them. I can't be here anymore." The phone call ended with her whispering my name, her voice breaking under the weight of the situation. But I knew that leaving was the only choice I had. It was the hardest decision I'd ever made, but I couldn't continue living in a broken marriage. After the call, I felt the weight of the world on my shoulders. My family was falling apart, and I wasn't sure how to pick up the pieces. My mother answered the phone almost immediately when I called her. I could hear the worry in her voice as she asked if everything was okay. I had kept the details of my struggles with Sarah from her, but now I couldn't hide the truth any longer. "Mom, I need to talk to you." "It's about Sarah," I began, trying to steady my voice. I paused, unsure of how to say the words. Once I started, though, it all came pouring out. I told her everything. The late nights, the lies, the incident with Sarah's ex. The silence on the other end was deafening, and when she finally spoke, her voice was thick with sympathy. "Oh, Mark," she whispered. "I had no idea you'd been through so much. I'm so sorry. What are you going to do now?" "I don't know yet," I admitted. I'm just trying to figure everything out. I can't even go home right now. It's too much. I'm going to stay at the motel for a few more days to sort things out." After a long pause, my mother spoke gently. "What about Emma and Jack?" I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision I was about to make. "I think it would be best if they stayed with you for a while," I said. "I don't want them to see the tension. I need some time to figure out how to tell them. They're too young to understand all of this, and I don't want them caught in the middle." "Of course, darling," my mother replied. "They can stay with me for as long as needed. I'll take them to the park, keep them busy, and make sure they feel safe and loved. You take the time you need to figure things out." Her words gave me a small sense of relief, knowing that Emma and Jack would be in a stable environment while I tried to come to terms with everything. "Thank you, Mom," I whispered, feeling the weight of the world on my shoulders lighten just a little. "I don't know what I'd do without you." "You don't have to go through this alone, Mark," she said, her voice full of warmth and love. "Take all the time you need. We're here for you no matter what." Those words of reassurance gave me a glimmer of hope. The road ahead would be long and painful, but at least I wasn't walking it alone. A few days later, I returned to the house to gather my things. Sarah was waiting for me, looking worn and exhausted, her eyes red from crying. But I had no sympathy left to give. "Mark, please," she whispered as I packed my bags. "We can make this right. I'll do anything." I didn't even look at her as I zipped up my suitcase. "After everything you've done, do you really think I can ever trust you again?" I asked, my voice cold and empty. She sobbed, holding out her hand. "I'm lost, Mark. I've done things I shouldn't have, but I know now what a huge mistake I made. Please, for Emma and Jack, we have to try." I closed the suitcase, my heart heavy but resolute. "I'm doing this for Emma and Jack. They deserve parents who love and respect each other. I can't give them that life anymore." That was the final straw. I called my lawyer and filed for divorce, the hardest step I'd ever taken. But I knew it was the only way forward. The hardest part was telling the kids. They were too young to understand why their father wasn't coming home, but I promised myself I would always be there for them. I would protect them from the chaos of our broken marriage, no matter what it took. 4 months, I rebuilt my life, piece by piece. The nights were long, and the scars of betrayal didn't heal quickly. But slowly, I began to find a new normal, a life free of lies and broken promises. In hindsight, I know I lost precious things during that time, but I also learned what truly matters: honesty, loyalty, and a love that can stand the test of time.